I don't think that the traditional arcade controller is going anywhere. I don't think that all button controllers are going anywhere. I think the future of input devices in general.
Hey guys, today I'm sitting down with Matt and his primate Vtuber from SGF to talk about the company's journey as well as the ins and outs of running an all-button controller business in the current FGC climate. Enjoy the interview.
On paper, it's just me, Matt. I own the company, but in reality, it's me and my buddies Andrew and Cam that kind of work on the controllers. We're all about being gamers. Back in the day, we were all into all kinds of games, but when Andrew and I were in school together was just about when Street Fighter 4 was coming out. That kind of rekindled our love for fighting games from back in the day. As Street Fighter 4 came out, even though opinion on it at the time was a little bit more mixed. Now I think it's viewed a little bit more fondly. We just really got into it back then with the Mad Catz TEs and that kind of stuff. Eventually, how it came to be, even though it took over a decade to kind of get to where we are now. Wanting to be the change that we wanted to see. It was too expensive and took too long to get a good, solid, stickless controller. There were maybe a few options out there where you could either get high quality at a high price with long delivery time, you could get low price with a quicker delivery time at a lower quality, but we saw kind of that point where we could make a difference by helping change the equation of quality versus price versus delivery time. That's kind of where I think the business part of it came in, was like, hey, we can fill this gap between these three different ideas and address a need that the community has. From there, we saw, hey, this is actually something that could be something of a business. And it went from like January of 2023 was our first sort of serious sales on Etsy to, I think it was roughly May time, we were literally starting to like bring Etsy to its knees from traffic, from people trying to buy the SGF products. We had to go to our own website. That was kind of when I started to talking to the higher ups at my company that I was working full time at the time, to say, hey, we need to start a transition plan. I just taken a promotion and was responsible for a team of a few people. I didn't want them to be out in the cold, that kind of thing. And by the end of August, I had actually done something I had never done and left my stable, well-paying career to try and strike it out on my own and see what SGF would actually end up being. Took every penny I've ever earned in my entire career and life, all my retirement savings, everything, and put it into SGF, and figured if I'm going to fail, or we as SGF are going to fail, at least we're going to try. There's a few big ones. Obviously, what we have to start with always is what can we make, right? When we first started, it was literally me in my house with one consumer level 3D printer, so our options were pretty limited. And at the time, it was like PLA or PETG. I did some durability tests on both of them, and they were, at least for the purposes of the product that we made, pretty similar in durability. Then started looking at factors. The cost of material was roughly the same between the two, but PLA is actually industrially compostable, and I'm not going to say that we are the greenest small business on earth or anything like that, but where we can, we're going to make decisions that are good for the environment. And PETG is recyclable, but PLA being compostable, at least in an industrial manner, is actually even better than being recyclable. So went with PLA for that. Now we're starting to move into products that use PA12 nylon, which is not compostable, but is very recyclable. So, making sure that we're trying to do what we can, where we can, to be responsible is part of that. Durability is another big factor. Again, PA12 nylon, very durable, so not concerned about that. When it came to like artwork printing, that was a little bit different because, we had considered going with the sort of more standard options that you might see with sticks, where you would have some printed artwork under an acrylic plate. That's fine, no shade on that or anything like that, but we want to do something a little bit more unique. So we went to investigating some other techniques that could be done for that. And personally, I'm always interested in trying to find new ways to integrate new techniques into product design and production. So we found a new technology that allows us to directly add, it's technically a pigmented acrylic resin that gets deposited in very small portions, like through something like an inkjet nozzle directly onto the plastic and then instantly cured. And this, gives us some interesting things to do where we can play with textures, different finishes, add some like pseudo 3D ridges and stuff like that into the artwork design that is unique. We think it's more durable than just an acrylic top. It's relatively cost effective, roughly the same price materials wise as like an acrylic top and printed paper. People work really hard on a cool, unique design for their art, and we want to have a cool, unique way to present that to the world and give people confidence and something to show off. So, the decision-making process has all kinds of different kind of levers to pull. We want to make sure, number one, that what we're doing is something that we can make given our tiny scale, that it's something that is environmentally responsible, within the choices that we can make, that we're making the right ones for the environment, and that it's something cool and unique, and ideally something that is done in a different way than has been done before, where we can, or that makes more sense to us, or that we're more interested in. So that's a rough one. I think the simplest answer is I try to put myself in the consumer's shoes, because at the end of the day, that's how this all started. I personally thought that I didn't see the value proposition in a lot of products that were available to me at the time. The prices have gone down a lot since we got into it, just a little over a year ago. Everybody at SGF, me, Andrew, Cam, everybody, we're all working harder for less money than we ever had before. On an hourly basis, I make probably less than half of minimum wage, if that. But the nice thing is that because it is truly a labor of love and it's not something we're doing to try to get rich or anything like that, it doesn't really matter too much. I think our strategy is basically, let's make sure that we are striking a good balance between the cost of the product and the value that we deliver behind the product, and keep track of the market, see where the trends are going, and see if we can match it. It's never going to be the case that we're going to be able to get down to the same price for a controller that you get from somebody overseas who's making 10,000 of them a month. It's just not possible. And I wouldn't want to, because that would mean that we're turning into some giant megacorp that's losing our own core values and belief systems. So we're always going to be a little bit more expensive than the absolute cheapest option out there. But at the same time, I don't eat steak and lobster. I have a nice banana and some ramen noodles or something. That's good for me. So we can continue to keep our prices as low as possible while keeping our own quality bar up, and keeping that balance is, I think, what's most important to kind of holding on to our core values as SGF. One of the first challenges that we ran into was the first 100 or so Bridget units that we sold were using V1 chalk switches. They're great switches, and I really like them because there's so many different options out there for feels and spring weights and stuff like that. But the FDM printed caps that we did were just not durable enough. And we ended up moving to V2, but I think the biggest challenge there was all those with the V1 caps were already in the wild. To this day, there are still people that come back to me saying, hey, I had a V1 cap break and it sucks. Basically, what I've done is gone in and budget, hey, every single person that's bought one of these back in the day with the V1 caps is going to have to get a free replacement eventually. There's no time limit on that. I've never denied it to anybody. I'm not going to. You know, if you had a V1 version that is not durable enough, we're going to get you a replacement that is. Those kinds of challenges, like that taught me, being an engineer, not a business person, that I've got to account for those mistakes that are going to happen from time to time and keep that kind of rainy day fund there for stuff like that. Another, I think, kind of challenge that it's come more from the manufacturing side is our early Bridget models were assembled with screws. That's great for durability and rigidity and things like that, but by the time it got to the point where I was one guy in his house trying to make dozens of these a day, it wasn't tractable. So we had to move to a snap fit design, and that alone, that was 2 to 3 months of every spare moment going into that, but it paid off because it means now I can get more of them out of the door at a lower price to meet demand. So those are just a couple examples of some of the challenges and hurdles that we've had to tackle. The short answer of why the monkey branding is literally we just like monkeys. It's always been a thing with me, Andrew, and Cam. I think it's probably also a pretty common theme within the FGC. Cam used to play on like a competitive FGC team called, I think it was called like Third Monkey Fighting Team or something like that. It was actually this t-shirt that the whole team had. Just fun. We all enjoy the monkeys. It's kind of inspirational and creative for us in things like coming up with product names or advertising campaigns, things like that. I'm going to preface this by saying I am not a clairvoyant monkey. I am probably going to be totally wrong in every assertion I make here, but I don't think that the traditional arcade controller is going anywhere. I don't think that all button controllers are going anywhere. I think the future of input devices in general is just going to be more diversification. I think you've seen this in like the PC keyboard market. You can still go get the same keyboards. You can buy reproductions or the exact same thing as an IBM Model M now, but you can also get really funky split layouts and single-handed keyboards for chording and stuff like that. I see game input devices going the same way, and we've seen this even with pads that have swappable joysticks and different layouts and stuff like that. I see sort of modularity and diversification in different types of input methods continuing to grow, and maybe 10-20 years from now we're at a point where people are every different input method is some kind of like Lego contraption where people are deciding what is individually best for them and going from there. And again, I think because of the individuality and expression in the FGC, that the FGC is going to continue to be the leader on that front. The fighting gamers are going to be the first people getting this early start on these new paradigms in controllers and input methods, which is really exciting to me and why I want to continue to remain part of this community. So this is a really tough one, because if 5 or 10 years ago you had told me, hey, you're going to be making controllers, running your own business, I would have told you, get the hell out of town. Like, you got to be kidding me. I would love for SGF to be a thing that in 5 years or 10 years, I'm still in the shop every day, designing new things, testing prototypes. And I've got 3 to 5 people from our local scene that are making good money, building things and shipping them out the door. And I don't want to get rich off this. I don't want to live in a mansion. I want to be able to put food on the table and pay rent for me and a few other people in the community that contribute and dedicate their lives to this and deserve to be able to make a living off of it. I absolutely can share some upcoming stuff with the caveat that there's a good chance at least some of it may never see the light of day. There's a lot of try and fail things or try and have to retry later things that may never happen. But probably by the time this interview is out, we will have launched some drop-in button replacements for traditional controllers, so things that would slot right into where you would previously have like a Sanwa button, but is something we make that has a little PCB with a key switch in it, sort of similar to like the Train's OSBMX design, but slightly different with some different switches and using our new button caps. We have finally gotten the equipment to do some larger format designs that we're currently working with to try and get that nailed down. People have been asking for that for a long time. At this point, it's literally just like trying to learn the machine and the design paradigms and the engineering to make sure that we're able to get good quality in a larger format controller. And we'd love to be able to put out something with some joysticks at some point. I'm not sure when that's going to happen. We're continuing to prototype, but it is a little challenging to try and get that nailed down when all of our previous experience has been in leverless designs. So I think those are kind of the short-term radar, but not ruling anything out in the future. I honestly think the most interesting part of SGF is just our history, right? It was completely an accident, right? It's just 3 guys who love fighting games and saw an opportunity to do something that they thought was better than was currently being done. Other than that, it's going to be future products. I mean, we never know where things are going to go, but definitely want to keep things in-house, US-based, local, giving back to the community and supporting and things like that. So I think you've seen that already a little bit in the fact that we're staying with kind of 3D printed designs and doing unique things with artwork and not outsourcing. So I just want to say thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about SGF with you. It's been a real labor of love, and just connecting with the community more is, I think, honestly, some of the best returns we can ever see on our investment. Special shout outs to you for making great content for the community, to everybody who likes and subscribes, hit those buttons. Also want to get some shout outs to Justin Wong and Next Up. We worked with them a little recently. That has been great. They're just a super great crew. If you haven't seen their stuff, go check it out. Also, big love to New Head FGC, who we've been working with for a while, as well as the Rangers at Rudder Middle School down in Texas.
Big thanks to SGF for sitting down to let me pick their brain. I don't do these interviews often, but I do think that documenting some of the insight into the business side of our hobby is a worthwhile endeavor. If you'd like to learn more about SGF products, click here. And if you're in the mood for another Fightstick interview, click here for one with Johnny Fraze. If there's anyone else you'd like to see me tap for one of these things, let me know in the comments below. Support your locals, and I'll see you next time.